Will was pretty complimentary, actually, of your strength. We joked I was going to clip it, actually, but I didn't want to pump your tires up too much. He was saying how you ran a steering rack he thought was faster or a little bit more responsive than his, which he said typically makes the car a bit harder to drive physically. So, you mentioned just before we started this that you're focused on trimming down but trying to also maintain your strength. How's that shift been from the supercar? Because something he mentioned was when he drove the touring car, it was the heat that got him. But physically, I loved hearing just how physical it was, because I hate fans always thinking you're just sitting on your backside driving a car. But hearing the IndyCar, hear him talk about that, I think was really surprising how hard that is. So it must have been a big transition, I imagine, from the supercar to Indy.
The biggest thing for me was the neck. Just getting running, like initially I had to run like pads at the start, and from open wheeler days, like it is pretty hard, the old neck. And the heavy car, the Indy car, it's a heavier open wheeler than most. So ultimately, that took a little bit to get used to. But the whole reason I shifted to that rack was, as you know, with a supercar, like a lot of our turning is done in that first like little bit. We don't do too much of this, like too much, like I guess over 90-degree turns. So apart from like say Simmons planes, so like I never felt comfortable like going through like a quick corner and just throwing a whole heap of lock in, because I just didn't have, I don't know whether it was reactions or I just didn't have the trust in the rear of the car. Like if it snapped, I felt like I had way too much to correct, and so I wouldn't commit. And the minute I went to that high speed rack, I just got way more feel in the front end of the car. And it was certainly, it definitely was heavier, but I do sit slightly higher than both the boys, both Joseph and Will. So I think I have a bit more like leverage, I think. But we just had a test day yesterday, and I actually tried going. I've gone since then. I've gone back because I just feel more comfortable with the last year or so. I've felt more comfortable, so I've gone back to the easier rack, and it's been nice. But I tried it again at Barber because we've been really good there the last few years, and I couldn't I couldn't turn the wheel, man. Like it was like the end of the day, the grip was high. I just like, when you get to the grade at Bathurst and you're like, sometimes old days where you just set it and forget it, set it and forget it. Like it was like that. I couldn't turn anymore. I had to like pull in, and I was like, guys, I'm toast. So
the tracks look physical crazy as well. Like all of the road courses, I don't know, you don't get that appreciation in F1 because everything looks so precise and smooth. And even I've heard drivers talk about how light the steering is. I think they've even got power steering that increases in the high downforce corners, so the steering weight never changes. Personally, I probably wouldn't like that because you want to feel the grip. But every time I see you guys up in the wheel, it looks ridiculous. Like that lap at St. Pete, every time you hear someone come on the radio, they are gassed. So it must be ridiculously hard to do a race. And I think your race is like 100 laps or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not short races.
Quick lap, like it's only about a minute, but like it's about a 2.5 hour race. Depends. But like, I wear like the whoop thing when I'm in the car, and like, I'm like peaking at sort of 175, 180. Everyone's heart rate's different, and then like sort of average is 150 to 160 the whole race. But like that was definitely higher when I first came over.
Yeah.
But like comparing to the supercar, going back to your question, like the supercar, man, is a breeze. The only thing that is like tough is the heat, and like it's a genuine thing. You got to be endurance fit. That's why cycling's so good for the supercar. Swimming, whatever you want to do. Where here, I had to really put on like some muscle and get some strength in the upper body region for sure.
Well, we mentioned it when you first logged on, mate, but I can see your neck. You look like an open wheel driver now. Like compared to what you look like in supercars. Like you've always been fit, obviously, but just seeing you sit in that chair the first thing, I was like, fuck, he's got an F1 neck now.
Yeah, it's probably bigger now today because Barber is like the hardest of the. So we just got up. It's all like full of shit, but it's it's crazy like how much that builds up. Like, but
I laughed on the podium.
The open wheeler drama where you just like got a shirt with like a bigger neck now. Like I've got to get like
custom shirts.
I laughed. There was a photo of you at Bathurst. I can't remember what year it was, but it must have been maybe the year before you left, and everyone was talking about like, is he going to go to IndyCar? Is he not? And you were celebrating, and I remember seeing this photo. You were like looking up, and you could see, and I was like, yeah, he's going. You could definitely see that your neck was more jacked than it used to be. I thought, yeah, he's going IndyCar for sure.
He's been training.
Yeah, that was an awkward time, like because you just didn't. I sort of like didn't know I was going, but I didn't know for how long. And then all of a sudden, like when that week was like, okay, well, like bring all your shit. So I was like, okay, we're going. And so I left my place in Brisbane, like, well, we like, it wasn't rented out or anything, like had all our furniture in for like a year and a half. Like, it was a bit of a bleed, but worked out all right.
And like, how did it all come about, mate, with the transitioning over to IndyCar? Obviously, you'd done probably what you wanted to achieve, I assume, in Australia. Did Roger or Tim come to you and say, hey, or did you start that conversation? Like, how did it actually...
And why IndyCar too? Because I'd heard your dad wasn't a fan of the open wheelers. I don't know if that's true or not. I just heard someone say that maybe that was why you didn't do Formula Ford, because you've had, it's a really unique path. Like we talked about it yesterday going, fuck, how do you spend your whole life in touring cars and then you don't just go like, oh, I'm going to go do like, it's not even like you can do Xfinity. You just rolled up, did IndyCar, and the transit. It's like two totally different formulas. I don't think people could probably even understand how different they would be.
Yeah, so the IndyCar thing started, like I'd always been keen on the America thing, and TC and RP were always like, win us a Bathurst, win us a championship, and then we'll talk. And I was like, okay, sweet. And we sort of did that. And then, but before all that happened, like I think it started like around Darwin in 19 or no, yeah, 19.
They saw you get the Triple Crown and went, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Forget the 3 championships.
Yeah,
I think you got the Triple Crown. They're like, yeah, that's it.
I think it was before that. I think it was like Thursday night dinner in Darwin, like no
right.
shit. And TC's like, because I always thought like, I'm a bigger guy. Like I thought maybe like NASCAR, just knowing my roots. And yeah, my mum and dad were never keen on me with open wheelers at all. That's why I never did Formula Ford. And I had to in the end for my license, but that's a whole nother story. But
I remember that actually, Scotty, with you. Your transition into supercars was quite cool. Sorry to sidetrack it, but I was thinking about it before because you had the deal with Stone Brothers to do Super 2, but you need to get your license. I remember at the time you were just doing a heap of different random shit every weekend to get your license so you could do your program. Because I remember you did like Mini Challenge. I know you did I think you did Iron Magic or one of the state rounds in Formula Ford, like a one-off thing.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember you did a heap of like just random stuff just so you get your license.
Talk about a stalker.
Well, I'm a big fan.
No, Bob's like we were racing karts there for a while too. I think
I actually remember us sitting on the grid at Oakley Top Guns, I think it was, and just chatting away. Because I remember looking at your airbox. You had the airbox with the cane and air filter on it, I think, and mine was different. I remember being like, "Oh, that's a different setup."
I've got to get one of those.
And then I was like, "Oh, this is Scotty. You guys were Kiwis and all that stuff." And then I was like, "Oh, so I actually was laughing about that the other day, thinking about it when we confirmed you. I was like, I remember being this really overweight kid on the like pre-grid of junior Top Guns, and then you just like, I never saw you again.
Like junior national heavy, just busting our ass like that. Like
probably wearing a hoodie over your race suit.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that transition was crazy. Like, I had to do the mini challenge and then the Formula Ford thing for the supercar thing. So that was already pretty, and that was just because I was so young. I couldn't get a national license without getting an exemption kind of thing. But then, so going back to the IndyCar thing, TC was like, have you ever thought about IndyCar? I'm like, no, I mean, I've always been interested in it. I watched it like Scotty Dixon and Will and all these guys. I was always interested in the racing. And then when I went to, when he said that, I'm like, I would love to try it. He's like, well, why don't we get you over to the Chevy sim, like to the simulator over here and see if you like go okay. And if you like driving the car, then maybe we can go that option. The biggest thing with the NASCAR option was, I'd go do what Shane's doing now, like do the Xfinity. Like maybe I'd go to trucks. They didn't really have a spot in Xfinity because Austin was there. And then they didn't really know what that program was going to look like in the next few years because it like ultimately would shut down, which is where it's at now. So they didn't really want to put me somewhere else. So it was more, they wanted to keep it in house and they could do that with IndyCar. And when I said I was open to it, I was like, yeah, like he's like, you get to race the 500 and like, I've been to the 500. I was, I thought it was an amazing race.
We had a good part that night. Do you remember the night after Indy 500? That was a good night.
Yeah.
That was a great party.
That was a biggie night for sure. So, I went with Holdsworth that year, and
that's right.
Fabs were there and all that. So it was, and and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'd love to try it. So I went over and did the sim, and I think the simulator happened. It was sort of like during our race season. And then they had, when I came in the sim and they're like, do you want to test? I'm like, yeah. So I tested at Sebring in January in 2020. It was just after we got married. And yeah, just loved it, man. Just, I don't know. I just took to it, just enjoyed driving the car. I think it was the first time it had like the windscreen on as well. And it didn't feel too unforeign to me. I think if it didn't have a windscreen on, I probably would have been caught off guard a little bit more. But when I jumped in, I was like immediately just like really enjoyed it. And then we went good enough that they wanted me to come back. And eventually, like that year in 2020, like I was meant to do probably half a dozen races in between the supercar season.
Wow.
Basically to the point where I would like, that was sort of just getting me in the mix. But still never really said that like, okay, this is what we want you, like, this is potentially what you want to do. It's just more giving me a feel for everything, plus doing the supercar thing, and then going at the end of it going, okay, what do you want to do kind of thing. And that, like, I owe a lot to them for allowing me to do that.